know if we're live or not. It says there's an error, but I think we're live here on the AP Draft Room. This is day 3 of the NFL draft, so this is perfect right now. Exactly what's going on. Some technical difficulties, but it seems like plenty of you can see us. We might be joined by our good friend Jay Binkley from 610 Sports Radio here in a few minutes, but I'm Steven Serda, joined by Caleb James and Ron Kopp Jr., covering the entire NFL draft on day 3. The Kansas City Chiefs getting ready to go on the clock in the 5th round. I think after their 4th round pick in Virginia Tech defensive back Jamar Connor, we're still kind of waiting on that defensive tackle, still kind of waiting on some other possible positions of need that we think the Chiefs have a chance to address. And guys, we kind of been on a quarterback run here in the late 4th, early 5th round here in the NFL draft. So there's some guys available, right, that the Chiefs could be seriously interested in to try to fill that need along the interior of their defensive line.
Yeah, no, I think that's one thing that I'm a little disappointed with the Chiefs draft so far is that I feel like they did need to improve at the defensive tackle position this offseason. You didn't see any major additions in free agency, and you haven't seen a top 160 pick at the position, but they are on the clock here at 166. Guys like Moro Jomo and Keandre Coburn from Texas would make sense to me. DJ Dale, the Alabama defensive lineman. They just need bodies in there, someone that can play the nose tackle specifically, but it just in general, they could use bodies. And so I think it is defensive tackle. Caleb, what do you think?
Yeah, either defensive tackle or, we mentioned some of these names we've been going through, like Keandre Coburn, maybe even Gerard Clark at this point, just someone that can try to get in there, plug up that A gap, play the one tech for this team. Really, they also could have a couple of options along, edge rushers if they were wanting to, take a risk and go after, a guy that doesn't necessarily fit their mold. You're taking a look at a guy like Isaiah Land, who he's a real flexible, bendy edge guy out of Florida A&M, small school prospect, maybe even BJ Thompson. If they're looking for more of like a thicker, more traditional type defensive end, Carl Brooks would be in this range also. Moro Jomo, fascinating player on the board. It feels like with the way he plays, though, him being kind of a smaller guy, it feels like the Chiefs already have guys that can fill that role. And we're seeing the pick is in. I think it's going to be a little bit before they actually do announce the pick, though.
Well, I think we talked about defensive lineman. I think that does make sense. Jose Ramirez is another edge rusher I think would make sense in the same mold as Isaiah Land. But there are some receivers still on the board if they want to double up at that position. Trey Palmer has not gotten drafted yet, and he is a speedy, 4.33 40-yard dash receiver from Nebraska. He went to LSU before that, so I think he would make sense. Andre Yosevich from Princeton, the receiver, he's another deep threat kind of player that could complement the fact that they got kind of that X type in Rashee Rice earlier. But there's running backs too, man. I mean, Deuce Vaughn, the local guy, is still available. You could get a Kenny McIntosh, the Georgia running back. There's a lot of ways it could go right here, fellas. But I definitely think that the receiver position, the defensive tackle position, I think those are two likely ones. Just skill position in general, I should say, on offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if they double dipped on wide receiver. Is A.T. Perry still available? I know Rocky absolutely loves him as a prospect. And so I know Rocky Magana, who will probably join us a little later on this evening, would probably be doing backflips at his home if they wind up landing A.T. Perry in the 5th round of this draft. But it does seem like that defensive tackle position is the last thing we really need them to fill. And actually, speaking of our friend Jay Binkley, who I know loves himself some defensive tackles, and is probably hoping that's where the Chiefs go right now. But they did go with another defender, but it was edge BJ Thompson from Stephen F. Austin. So, Jay, can you hear us? You got us, Jay?
I can. What's going on, fellas?
Hey.
Jay Binkley, what do you see the pick? BJ Thompson, what do you got? What do you think right now?
He's big, 6'6", 240 pounds. I mean, here's the thing with the Chiefs. BJ Thompson was looked to maybe be a 7th round pick or priority free agent, but the Chiefs just so nails on this these day 3 picks, and I think it's been a great day for the Chiefs anyway. With Connor, they're going defense once again here, but Connor, the pick right before this, my favorite pick the class so far for the Chiefs.
Really? He is your favorite pick of the
Wow,
class.
Jay.
He is. You know what?
Over Felix? Not a big Felix guy, Jay?
No, I am. I'm just saying, like the my favorite for just the need, what the Kansas City Chiefs do, and with Shamari Connor, the fact that he led Virginia Tech in sacks back in 2019, can play safety, can play corner. You put him in the nickel, you put him on tight ends, and you really hurt the tight ends. But what a great fit and what a hitter! I mean, this guy's a thumper for the Chiefs. They haven't had a hitter like this for a while, but a guy can play 4 phases of special teams. But really like that pick.
Well,
yeah, I was just gonna say I want to get into the full draft class while we got you, Jay. But Caleb, Ron, like, how do we feel about this pick? It's starting to feel like maybe the Chiefs are just like, yeah, we can probably just find a veteran defensive tackle off the scrap heap and sign him late in the offseason or something like that.
And the position, that is the position that you can feel better about doing that, at than maybe other positions, right? Hey, the nose tackle position is an early down position, maybe not a 3-down position. And so you kind of feel better. You can patch it up, but and specifically on BJ Thompson, this is, that double up on edge rusher. If they were going to do it, it makes sense to me to do it with a speed rush type rather than kind of that traditional defensive end. Isaiah McGuire, the Missouri edge rusher, it's, he wasn't on the board, but, in that same range, there could have been guys like that in that they could have gone after. But I think it makes more sense to go after, a kind of a unique kind of rusher. I think Jose Ramirez in this range would have made sense too. Caleb just mentioned Isaiah Land. BJ Thompson is in that same, kind of speed rushing type. It's kind of different from what they have in the edge rushing group right now. So I definitely get the double up, and I'm glad they went with someone that's not as the same as the rest of the defensive ends.
Well, as Andy Reid said, you can't have enough pass rushers, but this is a guy that's probably going to take some time. The red shirt years, like Kane, though, that they expected stuff from a guy that put in the system, and they love rotational pieces with this, but definitely athletically a guy that can get there. But, again, can he come in and can you withstand maybe a year or so until he's ready? He's still got some NFL strength and conditioning to go ahead of him.
Taking a look at the board right now is interesting because after this pick by Arizona, I think it's getting ready to fall very favorably for the Chiefs to be able to maybe go back and get their interior defensive linemen. They got the first pick of the 6th round. So, and really just looking at the teams across the board, there's a lot of teams up there that have really pretty good interior defensive lines. I think if they are, the way that the board fell, I think they're going to have their chance. But Thompson is definitely not the archetype they've typically gone with for their edge rushers. I'll be curious to see his length and bend and, how Spags plans to try to incorporate it into the game plan.
And some guys, there's some names of defensive tackle when you're talking about interior defensive tackle. I really like Coburn out of Texas is still available. Scott Matlock at Boise State is the guy I actually mocked to the Chiefs. I just love the way he plays, but there's still some talent there on the defensive line.
Jay, no, I'm totally with you. I am a big Coburn guy right now. I feel like he just fills an immediate need for the Chiefs. He could come in and play right away at that nose tackle position, with Chris Jones and on early downs. I'm surprised they haven't gotten just a defensive tackle in general this far into the draft. We're, coming up on the top 200 picks. But again, I do think it's one position that if you do have to patch it together, you can feel better about it. And these other positions are a little more maybe valuable to get future, future guys, guys that can develop a little more. I think you can get away with what they got at defensive tackle.
Still a couple of my favorites remain out there. Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion. I really thought the Chiefs might throw a dart at Zach. He finished 1 or 2 in every athletic event at the combine, and he's 6'7", plays tight end out of Old Dominion, 4.55 540 for a guy that big. I was hoping they were going to throw a dart at a tight end here when they go, but still Hunter Lukey, the fullback / H-back / Wildcat player from North Dakota State, still remains a big special teams player. And I know Connor plays a lot of special teams too. Shamari Connor they took before, but still a couple of guys I really like out here.
See, that's the thing with me, Jay, is like the Connor pick. I feel like I would have loved it a lot more if it was a little later in terms of getting that guy that's going to be a 4-phase special teamer. I just feel like with that first pick in day 3 and moving up to get him. I don't think it's a good justification to say, oh, he's going to be really good on special teams. Like, we need a little more from a pick, I would think, in that range. Just so a top.
But here's the thing, though, Ron. I mean, you're talking about a guy that started at corner, a guy that started at safety, team captain at Virginia Tech. I mean, he's a 4.51 guy. He's a speed guy. And it's in that kind of mold of L'Jarius Sneed, although he can play safety, which makes him a little bit different. He's my favorite pick. I think Daniel Jeremiah was out here saying, too, it's his favorite pick so far today, and was Shamari Connor to the Chiefs.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
I think that with Connor, he gets downhill really well. Like you mentioned, he's a big hitter. He's a hammer when he's flying downhill. I think he just needs a little bit of work on his transitions. At times, he just looks a little bit uncomfortable, when he's lined up in the slot. But that versatility is valuable. I mean, it is valuable depth, if anything.
100%. That's what they're doing. The Chiefs are grabbing all these guys. They're athletic and they can move them around. I remember Brett Veach when he was on Pat McAfee's show a couple months ago. It was after the Super Bowl, talking about versatility, the plug and play. And we've seen it so much with the offensive line. You think Andy Reid wants a guy that can play tackle, guard, center. Well, that's the same way they look at defense. What can you do? Can you be in the nickel? Can you play safety if we need you? Can we play corner? It's the plug and play mentality that the Chiefs have gotten.
And I was talking earlier, Jay, about it feels like the last 2 years, like we've really witnessed a kind of philosophy change in the way they're trying to build out that secondary, where now going into next year, you have some hitters in that safety group with,
especially this dude.
Yeah, like I love Brian Cook. Connor's that guy. Justin Reed is that guy. They bring in the veteran Mike Edwards. Like, all of a sudden, that safety group for the Kansas City Chiefs, like, that's a lot of dudes who aren't afraid to lay a hit on somebody. And it's very different from a couple of years ago where you're down to Juan Thornhill and Tyrann Mathieu, who's not interested in tackling anybody.
Yeah, exactly. You got guys, and they've really bulked up the secondary. You think about the Chiefs, they spent last year, really throwing darts at that secondary. Just, you bring in the Jalen Watson, a guy in the 7th round, they get you a couple picks in the postseason. And the NFL is such a pass-happy league, and you look at these quarterbacks lining up in the AFC, and just to counteract, that's what the Chiefs have done. Look, they've gone for edge, and they've gone for secondary help. And if you want to combat yourself against these high-flying offenses in the AFC, it's what they're doing. It's what teams are doing to stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs are doing the same thing to stop their quarterbacks.
And while we have you, Jay, because I'm interested to get your opinion on the rest of the draft class so far, because you already talked about Connor and Felix a little bit, but how are we feeling about wide receiver Rashee Rice and offensive tackle Wanya Morris?
One thing I really like about Rashee Rice is, well, first of all, I got Pat's endorsement. So no matter what anybody says, Pat Mahomes endorsed him, so I'm good with that. But you look at what he did in college. I mean, yeah, there's some drops here and there, but he's so physical when he's got the football. We've seen him in the weight room. You know what he can do. But, this is a guy 3rd in the nation in receiving yards last year. He led college football in receiving yards per game at 112. He was the only receiver in the nation over 110 yards per game receiving. But I like it. And kind of the pressure's off, too. You got Sky Moore here, Kadarius Toney to step up. So Rashee Rice doesn't have that come in and be the savior mentality with this offense. But really think the Chiefs, again, I like that middle group, that middle tier of wide receivers. Like, I like Jonathan Mingo a ton. That was probably my favorite guy. And then there was Rashee Rice in that area, Cedric Tillman. There's a chance that wide receivers 5 through 9 have as much chance of success as 1 through 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, we were definitely with you on Jonathan Mingo. That's a player that we were talking about.
You didn't like Mingo too?
On day 2 of the draft, so we're a little bummed when we saw him go ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, no, Jay. Also, I was a big Mingo guy. I'm glad the Chiefs went with the receiver in the mold of Rice, right?
Same mold.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing with the Chiefs' current receiving core is they have a lot of guys that came one with speed, one with yak ability. But they really are missing that guy that can win through physical coverage, make catches, through, with a guy on his back potentially, kind of maybe went into the sideline. Juju Smith-Schuster did a lot more of that than maybe I even thought he could before, last season. He ended up being quite the perimeter receiver for the Chiefs, to the sideline, down the field to an extent, making plays after the catch by breaking tackles. That's something Rice can do. So I do like the style of receiver they picked there for sure.
And as far as Wanya Morris, again, athletic guy, and the Chiefs have had success with the Oklahoma offensive linemen. You know, Orlando Brown in here, Creed Humphrey in here, and the fact they knew Trey Smith. And again, you look at your guys and you look, all right, where's the fit? Obviously, Trey Smith, you know, his opinion probably weighed in on this. He played with him at Tennessee on that left side. He's over at the right side. But once again, he fits right now. He can even play guard, too, in the NFL. So once again, you find that guy that can move all over. I expect him to compete at right tackle for the Chiefs.
Yeah, same here with, him going in there for that competition at right tackle. And really, drafting tackles that late, in like the 90s range, a lot of the time it can be like throwing darts. So, if you got your one lucky dart, or you got your dart you use all the time, or it well, you're going to use it. And, he's played for the same offensive line coach that Creed Humphrey and Orlando Brown both played for at Oklahoma. And he lined up next to Trey Smith when he was at Tennessee. So there's a level of comfort and familiarity there that they know he's a guy that, they can continue to develop. And, he's a pretty athletic guy. He's got room to grow, but he's going to be, thrown in there with that competition for Niang. So that's going to be fun to see how that one plays out.
The guy I really liked, though, went the top of the 4th round. And, the Saints just couldn't wait to get him. Nick Salisbury out of Old Dominion. You talk about a guy that can even play center, guard, tackle, whatever. Here's a guy that really climbed late, made 15 top 30 visits. But if that was the guy I was really hoping for at that point. So if they didn't get one, getting Nick Salisbury would have been the way to go.
And before we let you go, Bink, I'm just curious. And like we saw, so as we were kind of heading in today, we're thinking it's day 3 of the NFL draft. We can kind of chill a little bit. It's not going to be as crazy as the first couple.
It's the fun time, Serda.
And then top of the 4th round, we got 15 minutes before the draft even starts. Like trade. And all these teams are moving around. The Eagles having an absolutely insane draft weekend, but obviously
Georgia, then they get DeAndre Swift, who went to Georgia.
Yeah, the Eagles, it's pretty indisputable the Eagles have improved their already loaded roster this weekend. Like, it's insane what Howie Roseman has pulled off this weekend. But, the Chiefs obviously still have a couple of more picks, but, those picks notwithstanding, like, how are you feeling about the overall roster? And, coming into this draft, we talked about it a lot, Bink, like, the Chiefs didn't have so many holes this year like they did last year, where like we went into the draft last year not even knowing who their cornerbacks were going to be outside of L'Jarius Sneed. So this year it feels like you're kind of filling depth players and hopefully taking some swings on guys that you can develop. But overall, I still think the roster is in a really good spot right now.
No, it really is. You think about right tackle, there's going to be legitimate competition for that, but not a lot of positions. It'll be more like who's going to be in the rotation for the Chiefs. I think I'm most looking forward to training camp with the wide receivers because, you think Kadarius Toney has that ability maybe to be the number one. MVS, what are they going to do? There's going to be some serious competition. I mean, there's not a ton of talent disparity between a lot of these players. Like MBS has certainly shown some skills, but maybe hadn't shown the physicality that he needs in Kansas City. But Rashee Rice thrown in there, Sky Moore that catches everything. There's going to be legitimate competition. And then Justin Watson coming back, there's going to be legitimate competition to get snaps a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. And like, I'm really interested in that. Like, that's one of the, I guess at this point, if you said, what's your number one thing you're looking forward to at camp, it'd be the wide receivers in the order in snaps and kind of yardage, what you expect from the guys. And the other would obviously be the right tackle competition. I got to ask you guys one thing though. If there's one guy left in this draft, who do you want him? Who do you want to be on Kansas City?
I mean, Coburn was a good pick, honestly. I like you going there, but if I'm going to switch it up from that, even because I do think the Chiefs should address the running back position. I think Kenny McIntosh, the Georgia running back, just makes so much sense for what they need at the position. Someone that has experience receiving, someone that has experience in pass protection, someone that played in a pro-style offense. Georgia is a very comparable offense to what you're going to see in the NFL. And again, just kind of a playmaker too, with the ball in his hands. Not the fastest guy, right? Not the most explosive, most impressive athlete in terms of his athletic testing, but that's why he's going to be slipping to this point. But I think it'd be really good value once you get to their next pick probably here.
I like McIntosh, and don't forget Veach. It is a press conference right before the draft had mentioned he had thrown in, can we get a running, if we look at running back, can he play in the slot as well? So if you take your running back, put him in the slot as far as that's concerned. But Hunter Luepke North Dakota State's my guy. That just those simple draft dreams that you have.
No, Lupke he'd be so fun in this offense. Andy Reid could find ways to where, they're lining up on like short yardage plays, and all of a sudden the fullbacks are running a wheel route out of the backfield. I'm going to stick with the actually, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go, really, if you're looking for a great draft value right now, you could look to the inside at guard. Andrew Voorhees was probably a day 2 pick before he tore his ACL in the pre-draft process. But, he's a guy, he got his letter of recommendation from the doctor sent out to all the teams saying he'll be good to go once he's back. He could be a guy that you could maybe draft now and get a good value on. And maybe, one day in a year or two, he becomes, your Joe Tooney replacement. That would be kind of a sneaky pick in this situation, more of a planning for tomorrow rather than playing for today pick.
What about you, Serda? You always have your guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to side with them because I trust their opinions more than my own at this point in the draft this year. But I'm also going to pick a guy that our friend here at Arrowhead Pride, Rocky Magana, would absolutely love, and that's wide receiver A.T. Perry. I'm fine with them just dipping again into the wide receiver pool because there's Jay, like you talked about the wide receiver camp battle, like they got so many wide receiver bodies on the roster right now. And I think it's smart because obviously a lot of these guys aren't going to wind up making the team, but we're headed into a season where every kind of wide receiver on the roster right now is like, yeah, you could talk yourself into why they would be really good, but we still haven't necessarily seen it. Like, Kadarius Toney, we know that he could be a special player if he can stay healthy, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy so far in his NFL career. And Sky Moore, while I'm still a huge Sky Moore believer, we are just kind of projecting right now with him because we didn't get an opportunity to see a lot of him as a rookie. And then, MVS, Richie James, Justin Watson, like we know exactly what all those guys are. Justin Ross would be really cool if he turns into something, but we don't want to hold our breath there. And they just got a lot of bodies. So I'm fine with them continuing to try to just add bodies and see if they can strike gold with somebody.
The A.T. Perry being 6'4", Bryce Ford Wheaton that's sitting out there too. Again, MVS is 6'4", I get that, but Bryce Ford Wheaton 6'4" as well. The guy that I kind of like sneakily right now is Trey Palmer. You lose that 4.33 elite speed that McCole Hardman had. He's got 4.33 elite speed himself, and came in, had that 1,000 yards in Nebraska this year. But when he was at LSU, he had that kick return for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown. So I kind of like a little maybe Trey Palmer at wide receiver. Maybe Ronnie Bell's sitting out there as well.
I'm a big Trey Palmer guy, Jay. I think he's the perfect complement to what they already took in Rice, right? You need a kind of that future deep threat. He's got the 4.33 speed, former LSU guy.
He's the fastest guy on the roster.
Yeah, he has that speed. I'm surprised he hasn't gone already just because of that speed. I definitely think he and Tyler Scott were kind of slipping to that point where I would have picked them even at that last slot. But yeah, he's still here. I would love to see Trey Palmer. We're only a few picks away now, fellas. So I would love to see Trey Palmer.
Oh yeah, they got number 1 in the 6th right now. So how many picks do we have? Should we just stay here? We could let Jay Bakley go because I'm sure he's got he wants to keep watching this draft. We are only a few picks away, but maybe we'll take a break and come back live for you guys. But before we let you go, Jay, what kind of beer is on tap for celebration on a wrap of the NFL draft in Kansas City?
Oh man. Tonight, I still have some of that Firkin from last night. That's a little smaller cask. That was maple, vanilla, coffee, porter they had last night at Center Block. So that's probably going to be on tap tonight. I still have some Irish beer left over, some stuff locally from Call Sign Brewery. I'll probably crack into tonight.
Sounds delicious. Can't wait. Crack a beer for me. I'm ready to have some beers and celebrate fantastic draft here in Kansas City. He's Jay Bankley. You can follow him on Twitter at 3 Guys in a Garage. You should also listen to everything that he's doing at 610 Sports Radio. Jay, thanks for joining us. It was fun catching up, man.
Fellas, have a good time, man. Enjoy the rest of the draft.
Yes, sir. Good seeing you, Jay.
Bye.
So Kansas City Chiefs will be up in a few minutes. We are going to take a break here just to because this late in the NFL draft, I feel like it's a lot of time to fill when you're waiting on like 4 or 5 picks. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back here in a few minutes so we can get caught up on some of the other picks as we were just discussing everything. So we'll catch up with you guys again here in a few minutes for the Kansas City Chiefs' first 6th round selection.